E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guinois, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guinois Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Me and Mr. Emerson Brantley are so proud to be here. We want to thank you for joining us, and our show is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com, and also a very good and dear friend of ours, Mr. Bill Heinrich. His book is The 7 Levels of Truth. You can find it on Amazon. And Bill spent 30 years in making this book. He literally walked away from his life to figure out why he was so unhappy and miserable. And in his journey, he realized he found some nuggets of truth, and he wanted to share that with you. And you know, Emerson, you've known Bill for many years, and I tell you right now, he's just a joy and a jubilee to know, isn't he?
Oh yeah, and he can immediately pinpoint things that, based on just what you're saying, that will go right down to the crux of the matter in what's holding you back, in what's tripping you up, in what's sabotaging your life.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
He really is, because we all met down at Speaking Empire, ladies and gentlemen, and we were on break, and we walked back in the back where they have the the break room area, and I just picked up a cup of coffee, and I saw Bill sitting there, so I just went over to sit down across from him just to say hello and just visit a little bit, enjoy my cup of coffee. And ladies and gentlemen, I kid you not, within 5 minutes, Bill started asking me some questions, and he says, "You need to put that into a course." And I realized when he was saying it, he was answering, some questions I didn't even know I had. But he's that good. He can read you like a book, literally. And I created a course called Your Future Is Now, because if you're going to take control of your life, you need to do it right now. You really do. And Emerson, we've got another good friend of ours who we've met through Speaking Empire. My goodness gracious. Would you be so kind as to give a little introduction about Mr. Rick Cesari?
Well, those of you who know me, I've a lot of people introduced me because of an infomercial that I did years ago that was an extremely long-running one. But the person that we have here today in that space is truly a godfather of modern advertising and the methods that are being used, not just on broadcast and television, but has completely spilled over into social media, online, you name it, and has stayed every step of the way ahead of the curve as video has become the go-to for marketers and for individuals worldwide.
Oh, it really has. And Emerson, it's time.
Cesari.
Yeah, it's time for me and you to scoot back a little bit and make a little room here and invite Rick to the stage. Welcome to the show, my man. Welcome.
How you Rick?
Doing? Hey, it's great to be here. And Emerson, thanks for the great introduction. And Jim, it's great to see you again. I really enjoyed the time we spent on your podcast a few years ago. So it's great to reconnect.
It really
Rick,
is.
I purposely did not tease some of the product names and ad names that you have in your repertoire. I wanted to give you full ability to introduce some of those and talk about them.
Yeah, we'll absolutely get to those, because it's just part of my personal journey. So Yeah, and so I wanted to let both of you know that I'm really, really passionate about the subject of health, and it
Mhm.
actually led to one of, my first real big business successes, and so very excited to do this show today.
We're very honored to have you here because finding health naturally, that is something that we all strive for. And said recently on another show that the best way I can describe why I'm so passionate about finding things about the heart, it's kind of like that old proverb. Sometimes where you stand depends upon depends upon where you're forced to sit. And when you suffer a heart attack and you got to have open heart surgery and 4 new pipes in there, it kind of takes the slack out of the chain. It gets your attention. And also, too, it makes you appreciate what you have in life. And that's the biggest thing of all, the love for family and friends. Because I tell people all the time, let's be honest, we're all brothers and sisters by different mothers. You know,
And
that's
fathers.
and yeah, exactly. They contributed too, us guys, and we did our part. But Rick, when it talks about, let me just say here, some of the things that you've done, you're a direct marketing response, guru. I mean, direct response marketing, I should say. But some of the products that you have been behind the scenes, my goodness gracious. Let's talk a little bit about, one of my favorite. We've had 2 or 3 in our house, the George Foreman Grill. How did all that come about?
Yeah, that was a really fun project. We're going to be talking about the Juice Man Juicer a little bit later,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a company. Basically, the parent company of the Juice Man Juicer and the Red Man Bread Machine was
Mm-hmm.
called Trillium Health Products, and in 1993 we sold it to a housewares company in Chicago called Sultan Housewares. We had You were talking about infomercials. One of the reasons we're able to create that big success with the Juice Man was
Mm-hmm.
running a 30-minute infomercial. This is all kind of pre-e-commerce on the internet, and
Mm-hmm.
so TV at the time, especially infomercials, was a really powerful way to market. And Sultan wanted to not only buy the brands that we created, but they also wanted to buy the marketing expertise. So they came back to me with 2 products. One was a homemade bagel maker, which I didn't think was a very good product because you could go down and get fresh bagels at the corner store. And, why would anyone go through the trouble to make them at home? And they didn't even taste as good. But the other one was this slanted grill, which originally was designed as something called the Fajita Express. It was slanted because the idea was they'd cook hamburger meat on it, scrape it off into a taco shell, and it was an easy way to make tacos or fajitas. But it turned out right about this time, George Foreman had won the heavyweight championship for the second time in a row. He knocked
Mm-hmm.
out Michael Moorer, and
Yep.
George was 46 years old, and he had been retired ever since his bout with Muhammad Ali until he made this comeback. And his total persona changed from kind of being a thug in his earlier years to a big, lovable character.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that he was looking for a product to endorse, and just somehow his agent contacted Sultan. They said, "Hey, we have this grill. Let's turn it into the George Foreman Grill," and that's kind of how it came about.
Mm-hmm. The reason I wanted to start off with that question, because now your folks out there in TV land are really going to appreciate the question I want to know. I think Emerson wants to know, and a lot of people out there want to know, and that is, how in the world did you get into marketing, and when and how did you discover direct response?
Yeah, that's a great question. My mom used to wonder the same thing because I studied biology in college, and actually with the idea that I was going to go to dental school when I graduated. And I actually applied to a few dental schools. I don't remember. I think I was even accepted at one, like University of Pittsburgh. But I was tired I didn't want to go to 4 more years of school. So
Mm-hmm.
I was going to college up in Pennsylvania. My family lived in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I said, I'm going to move back there and just do whatever I can to eke out a living. And so it turned out Daytona is kind of very much of a tourist type, tourist type economy.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up being a bartender and a lifeguard for a year, just to make money. But during that time, I was just reading a lot of books about how people made money, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of real estate investment books. You guys probably remember Robert Allen, Nothing Down, and
Yeah.
Albert
Mm-hmm.
Lowry was pretty famous back then.
Yep.
Well, these guys were also the first ones that started using television infomercials to promote their products. And I got in with a guy out of Florida that was doing real estate seminars. And I just had a knack for what he taught, went out, kind of bought a house, turned around and sold it in 2 weeks and made about $12,000. So here I am, 21 years old. $12,000 at the time to me was like $1 million today. I mean, I
That was
thought
a lot of money. Yeah.
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 Sure
And so I was so happy. I called and Emerson, you might be familiar with this. I called a Florida magazine called Florida Trend. It was
sure.
a business magazine, and they turned out to do a story on the guy. And then the seminars started to go really well. And just to show you how long ago this was, it was kind of the mid 80s. We were promoting these real estate seminars in the early years with newspaper ads. And
sure.
yeah, and big, quarter page, half page newspaper
Right.
ads.
Yeah.
But it was really they always had a direct response component in it, because people would need to read the ad and you'd need to convince them to go to the free seminar.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got good at that. And then I really just started reading some books on direct response marketing. And you're both probably familiar with Dan Kennedy and his No
Mhm.
BS Guide to Direct Marketing.
Mhm.
Read all of his books at the time, and just was a really big believer in this. And then, what I've always tell people, and Emerson, during the introduction, you were talking about, the skill set. The foundation of the skills I learned way back doing newspaper ads, from a direct response standpoint, translated to TV and now translates to things you do online.
Same principles.
Yeah, if you
Mhm.
understand those direct response principles. So I just look at like what we're doing. Like, here's the new TV now, streaming TV, which is different than traditional TV. But if you understand what makes people respond, you can be successful regardless of the platform.
I
Mhm.
agree 100%. I remember in the early 90s going to some of the early internet marketing conferences that were out there, and about 80% of the information was, questionable. But I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to become the technician for all of this. I know what to do in marketing. What I want to do is learn how to use the new as part of the marketing. And so all through my career, I've done that, going from the early stuff with bulletin boards and then email and websites, webmasters we used to get,
Oh yeah.
and into social media and all the rest. But
Mhm.
the principles are the same principles.
Mhm.
It's just delivering them through a different channel.
Yeah.
Now, for people who are viewing, who have a business or know somebody, I'm not saying you can take a little brochure that you have, at your front counter and just take that and just turn that into a website and turn that into an email and turn that into your social media. You have to work with the different media and use them in the ways that they have their own strengths, their own weaknesses, and then reach the people based on that. Otherwise, you're just kind of doing copycat stuff. And there are plenty of people out there, this, Rick. There are plenty of companies out there who basically that's about what they do, is they just do the copycat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna switch gears here a little bit, because in parallel, that was kind of the business background, and that was an awesome question. And then I want to kind of talk to you about my health background, which got me into
Yes.
my personal health journey. And
Oh, yeah.
it starts off. My dad was a World War II veteran. He landed on D-Day, the second day, not the first day, the second day, and he was a 50 caliber machine gunner, went all through France. And anyway,
Wow.
kind of at the time, it was accepted smoking was really accepted, and he was kind of a two pack a day Camel smoker. We owned
like my dad.
Yeah, we owned a small grocery store in New York, and he was a butcher, and so fresh meats, and we ate a lot of red meat. And the other thing is, we Italian Catholic. We had 8 kids in our family, so there was a lot of stress from raising such a big family. And my dad, I'm sorry to say it, he passed away at age 46 from a massive heart attack. And it was totally what we know now, and Jim, you could relate to this. It's totally, to some extent, totally preventable from a lifestyle standpoint. And,
Yes.
For me, that's always in the back of my mind. I'm in my 20s, and in the back of my mind is I want to live past 46. And,
Sure.
and so what can I do to make that happen? And so just like the business aspect and reading the real estate books and motivational books, I always, the other type of book I'd always read would be health and nutrition books. And I was reading books by some of the early health pioneers like Bernard Jensen, who I had the chance to interview at one time. And Bernard's famous because he interviewed the people who live all over the world who had lived the longest and took away the information on what he thought helped do that. It was always diet related and diet, type of thing. And then a guy named Dr. Norman Walker, who wrote a lot of books, but one called Becoming Younger, another one about juicing. And it was this juicing book that got me into this concept of drinking fresh fruits and vegetable juices. I still not a big vegetable eater. And, anything you read about good health, you eat more vegetables. And so I was looking at juicing as like, wow, this is a great way you can put more fruits and vegetables into your diet in a concentrated form without maybe having to eat a big plate of kale or a big plate of spinach or escarole or that type of thing. So that's what originally attracted me to the idea. And I was trying to eat a healthy diet. It wasn't vegetarian. I didn't have the willpower to quite do that. But I was always looking, and my eyes were always open at, so on one hand, I'm trying to live a healthy lifestyle. On the other hand, I'm a marketer looking for products to market. And I was living in Seattle at the time, and I went to the Seattle Home Show, and the attendance wasn't great. And, most of the booths are empty, but I'm walking down one aisle, and all of a sudden there's this one booth with like 50 to 75 people around it, which looked like a huge crowd. And I was like, wow, what's going on here? And I walked up, and there was a guy named Jay Kordich, who's known as the Juice Man, was basically talking to the crowd in front of his little booth about the benefits of juicing. And I stayed and listened to the whole thing. And, two things: the marketer in me saw an amazing pitch guy, which we'll see some video of Jay a little bit later. But I also was very interested in the health message, which was, simple. Juicing's an easy way to get more fruits and vegetables into your diet. So I approached him, and this is probably around 1987. He wasn't ready to do anything yet. He was just driving like from state fair to state fair, had little booths selling juicer. But about 2 years went by, and it turned out he was living in San Diego before this, but he moved to Seattle, and he reached out again. And that's when we decided to start the, at the time it was called JM Marketing, which isn't a very, fancy name. It just stood for JM Marketing, but that was the original name of the Juice Man business. And, it started, here's where, and again, we were talking about repurposing principles and ideas. I had learned direct marketing through putting on real estate seminars. So I was thinking maybe we could put on health and nutrition seminars using the same marketing techniques, and people would show up. And it was pitchman based, like the real estate guys. There was always a real estate guru who was always pitching their courses. And with Jay, I figured he could be the spokesperson. that we would advertise to get people to show up. And I had used the same infomercials that I had learned to use in the real estate for the juicer business. And it turned out we were at the right place with the right product and at the right time, and the business just exploded and did very well. So that's kind of how I got into health and nutrition. I know it's kind of a long story, but that was
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to say, if I may, ladies and gentlemen, there's somebody out there in TV land, and I know because we go to these little festivals and people come out and, they display their wares. They display, like, I'm going to use an example, Nicole. She has toughmotherbrand.com or Tough Mother Brands, I think it is, with an S.com, one of the two. She's over in Austin, Texas, and she's on vacation right now. I've had a good rapport with her. And Nicole and her sister, they have this great product that is apple cider vinegar and got all these great ingredients in it. And of course, that's all good for the body and all that. So where I'm going with this story, if you're a person like that, or if you know someone like that and you'd like to say, hey, I'd like to know more about direct branding, you see the website there on the ticker, directbranding.com. That's Rick's website there. Go there, visit his website, get in touch with Rick. Rick, I'll tell you right now, he'll be more than happy to give you a free consultation and talk to you and answer your questions. And because if you got a great product and it's beneficial to people, ladies and gentlemen, you owe it to those folks out there who are suffering to take it to them. Rick is the best person I know for that job, to be honest with you.
Oh, thank you, Jim. That's an awesome recommendation. And I'm a big believer in apple cider vinegar. I use it every day.
Oh, yeah.
The most famous one is the Bragg's apple cider vinegar and Bragg's liquid aminos, if you've seen it. And, I think it's Patricia Bragg. Her dad, Paul Bragg, was one of those original health gurus, along with the ones I mentioned, Bernard Jensen and Norman Walker. They all wrote the early health books about, how diet affected your health type of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great product.
It really is, because like I tell people that the mistake that I made, ladies and gentlemen, for many years, even though my blood pressure was good, even though the cholesterol levels were very low and all that, but I made a mistake, and I hate to admit this, but this is the truth. In my 50s, back in the 90s, I was still eating like I did in my 20s and 30s. And my bird way of thinking was, I take these supplements here, it's a win-win situation. I can eat what I want, get the supplements, and get the benefit. The problem with that ideology or that theory is that your body is a processing center. I was thinking it was a recycling center. That's a major disconnect. And, with all the great things you did there with the juice, man, my goodness gracious. Gosh, that's just a wonderful product. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, we since that time, you can't go out anywhere without seeing, a juice store or fresh juices. And I mean, I feel like we didn't invent juicing, but I think we brought it into the mainstream.
Yes.
Definitely because of the television advertising. But the one of the big things is that the company that did the Juice Man, which I owned with my brother, called Trillium Health Products, we were focused on really educating people about health and nutrition. And one of the things was, it was always good to also eat healthy bread. What I mean is whole grain breads, not Wonder Bread, the white bread. So we came out with a bread machine with whole grain bread mixes, and we named that the Bread Man. And that was another product that helped people eat a little bit more healthy. And we had a food dehydrator, and we had a staff of we had an advisory board, a scientific advisory board that had a lot of medical doctors and naturopathic doctors on there. There's a guy named Neil Barnhart, who's the head of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. He was on our advisory board. John Robbins, who wrote the book Diet for a New America, he's the son of the founder of Baskin Robbins, but swore off ice cream and started a vegetarian diet. And he was on our board. And let's see. Oh, the guy I mentioned, you were talking about the way you eat. There's a guy named Dr. McDougall. He wrote a book called 12 Days to Dynamic Health. And he said most Americans eat like it's a holiday. They eat ham like it's Easter, roast beef like it's Christmas, and turkey like it's Thanksgiving, but they do it all in the same week. Which is, it was never designed to be happening that often. It's okay to do it once in a while. So we really became, again, a health education company. We at one point, we had like 180 people working for us, and at least half of those were customer service people, not because of bad products, but because people had so many health questions. And we had 6 full-time naturopathic doctors that oversaw. People would call up with a question about their health, and they couldn't prescribe anything, but they would recommend a book. They would say, this would be a good book to read, or you should use this juice, drink these types of juices, that type of thing. So it was really a very fulfilling time in my life, because I was, able to market and sell products that not only I was passionate about, but was helping society at the same time.
Right.
I love that. And folks, did you pick up on that? The marketing there, the juice man, the bread man, that's real simple. I love that, because people don't have to scratch their heads. What was the name of that product again? It's just real simple. I love that. So, because a lot of times we want to, name something in an abracadabra kind of way, or, whatever, but keep it simple, because that's what people remember, is the simple things. I love that.
Go ahead. Jim, so much of what I'll say Western medicine, and I'm a believer in my doctor, and I have a great doctor, and treats me like somebody who has half a brain, and not like like somebody who doesn't have a clue. But a lot of what I'll say Western medicine seems to focus on is to cut, poison, or burn, not on preventing, not on what are the naturopathic ways that we can be taking care of our body the way our bodies are designed to be functioning.
Yes.
Nutrition is first and foremost in that. And we know now with the understanding of the human genome, and the different chemicals, the proteins, and the different elements that affect that, our brain chemistry as well as our body chemistry, our gut chemistry, that what we eat all ends up converting into those things. What we take in or breathe or are around every day has a positive or negative effect on it.
Yeah. My good friend, Dr. George Grant, he says it very well, because after he found out I had a heart attack, he says, Jim, that's survivable. And he says, you can overcome that. But he says, just remember this, what you've been eating is now eating you. So you got to stop that. You got to make some changes. And that's a good way of looking at it, because what I've been eating, if it created a plaque in my arteries, and it did, it's now eating me. So therefore I got to shut off the flow to that, and I have. It definitely will, and rightfully so. I'm grateful, because I think part of what I went through and having the TV show, it's simply an avenue to help people understand that if you have to have open heart surgery, don't worry about it. Don't let it worry or scare you, because I can tell you, when I came home, I didn't have any pain. And they give me pain pills and all that, but I didn't need them. And in fact, it was a little uncomfortable, of course, and I couldn't, I'd be sitting there talking, all of a sudden, just drop off to sleep, because that's the way your body does when it needs time to recharge. But my point being in this is that make sure that you're proactive. The best time to start is when you realize that, hey, I need to make some changes in my life. And Rick is an expert at it. And again, I encourage you to go to Direct Branding there and get to know Rick. He's got another website, rickcesari.com. And, he's got a lot of knowledge because he cares. He's got the compassion to help you in your hour of need, to help you enjoy the health that you're so richly entitled to. And that's the way I look at it. Because my dad, I lost him when he was 67 back in 78. He died right before Christmas to heart disease. And the only thing they had back then that we knew of was just, medication. And it did not, help him at all. It really didn't. It just,
Well,
might have
Rick,
made him live longer, but,
Yeah. To
Rick,
build
you
on,
and I have something in common. My dad died at age 60.
okay,
Two,
yeah.
2-pack-a-day Camel smoker.
Yeah.
Right.
Much too soon if you think about it. And you think
Way
of
too soon.
our ages
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, and
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Yes.
and then I can't even fathom passing away at 46 or 60
Oh,
or
No, that's.
absolutely. Absolutely.
but
I
Emerson,
have daughters that are approaching that age.
yeah, absolutely. Summers, I want to build on something you mentioned about Western medicine and doctors. And so, Western medicine's important when you have a heart attack, when you break a bone.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I always feel like the term complementary medicine, where if you had a medical doctor here and a naturopathic doctor,
Yes.
and they had them treating the same person simultaneously, you'd have the best of both worlds. Instead,
Mhm.
the two professions are fighting to control, whatever, the money or,
Yes.
and Western medicine. And, we could do a whole show on how it's controlled by the pharmaceutical companies and health claims and FDA and all that type of thing. But, it is what it is. And, just to show that it makes so much sense, there wouldn't be the tremendous growth in the supplement industry if people didn't believe in natural health, and there wouldn't be the growth in the naturopathic part of the treatment. I had part of the Juice Man. We also had another guy on our advisory board named Dr. Joe Pizzorno. And Joe Pizzorno and a good friend of mine, Michael Murray, who's a naturopathic doctor, they wrote the Encyclopedia for Natural Medicine. And it's still, they wrote it like 30 years ago. They update it every year. And it's one of the best-selling books. They use it as a textbook at Bastyr University, which is located out in Seattle. They started out training naturopathic doctors, but now they have masters in nutrition, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, every natural approach to health. You can get a degree there. And in the early days, because they were just starting out as a university or college, when we were having our success with the Juice Man, I was on their board of advisors. And again, being exposed to the naturopathic medicine really opened my eyes towards health. And you want to fast forward 30 years, I was working with a brand, an Amazon brand called Puria, and they treat eczema with a natural plant-based product. And they're very, very successful in their category. And they came to me and they said, how can we help grow the business? And I said, well, the first thing you need someone credible to be a spokesperson. And I have a good friend of mine, her name's Dr. Michelle Berklin. She not only is a naturopathic doctor, she has an MBA in business. And she had created a branding course for naturopathic doctors, but I recommended her to Puria, and now she's the chief science officer over there, and really has helped guide them, and their business has almost doubled in the last 2 years. But again, it's a plant-based creams for eczema and skin conditions. And if you turn on the TV, all you see are drug commercials for medicines for eczema. But there's always a natural. I always like to say there's usually a natural treatment for most diseases, lifestyle type diseases, that probably are much more effective than what your doctor can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that 100%, because when it comes to your health, you're eating healthy out of the gate. That's the foundation. And then the supplements that you use are exactly that. They're supplements. They're to complement your body. And what I find interesting about the body, I learned this from a good friend of mine who has oxalic acid. And he was talking about how the body actually, it'll just pick and choose certain pieces of, a plant or whatever it needs. And the rest it doesn't need, it just lets it go on down the digestive tract.
Mm-hmm.
And he says if 3 people are eating the same plant, they will get 3 different doses of that plant depending on what their body requires.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just amazed that I tell the story about my going out to New Mexico. I stopped and visit with my wife's aunt, and she made this delicious salad. And it was good. I mean, oh my goodness. She says, you like this? And of course, anything she said, do you like this? I said, yes, And I'll tell you, it was one of those kind of salads that she made that if it was made into a dip, you would have ate a bushel of tortilla chips, wolfing it down. But the point being is that when I left there, I felt so good. I didn't feel like I'd eaten a 25-pound cheeseburger, in other words. I didn't feel lugged down. I didn't feel tired getting in the car and heading on out to Arizona. And I thought, wow, that was really, that's a kind of meal. That's my body telling me that, hey, I like this stuff. You need to smarten up. And that's just amazing how your body will let you know that you're doing some good things, and listen to your body. And, when it comes to eating natural and, eating things that your body desires, I mean, it's just amazing what it'll pick and choose what it needs and lets the rest of it go down to the digestive tract.
Yeah, Jim, we have a great example of that. We talked about the juicer business and Jay Kordich, the juice man. I want you, if you could show that clip because when you see Jay in this clip, you talk about energy based on what you eat. Mm-hmm. He's 70 years old in this clip we're going to show, and watch how much energy he has and how much he passes around. It's pretty amazing. And then we can talk about it afterwards about the.
Oh yeah. Because I'm interested in the juice man. I mean, I just that whole story and everything he does just really intrigues me. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to the Juice Man. We'll be right back.
The Juice Man live with the Juice Man, Jay Kordich.
Great crowd. I love you folks here in Las Vegas. I've been here so many times. I'm first of all going to start cracking on this juice so you can see the juicer work right up front. And after we finish the juices, then I'm going to explain to you how imperative it is to have juices on a daily basis. See, this is something you don't buy as a whim, as a gadget. And you use it once in a while and you don't use it the rest. I mean, this is your blood of your body. This is the lifeline. This is liquid. This is the way you reach from the inside out every one of your 60 trillion plus cells. This is the one you feed to the body to keep you from atrophying, to keep you from aging, to keep you from becoming diseased, if you will. See, that's what we're here to teach you. A medical doctor, they address symptoms. They never teach you how not to become diseased. And we're teaching you from the ground floor the ultimate way to live a long, healthy, disease-free life.
Wow. A healthy...
That kind of sums up everything we've been talking about today.
It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing how well he looks at age 70.
Yeah. That video was obviously, I forget, it's probably from 1993 or 4 or something. Anyway, Jay passed away last year. He was 92 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So
my goodness.
Perfect example of, and you were talking about how great you felt and how much energy you had with the salad you had. And so Jay's primarily, drinks juices all the time. And his story was kind of interesting. He was basically kind of a football star at USC. He was a tailback. This was back when they wore leather helmets, and he got drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and he had a tryout there. But there was some blood in his urine, and he went to the doctor, and he said they might have prostate cancer, and he chose to treat it instead of going a normal route just through natural medicine. And I'm not saying anybody do that has a cancer diagnosis.
Sure.
But it worked, that's Jay, and it worked for him, and that's why he became such an evangelist for juicing. And he was under the care of somebody named Dr. Gerson, and Dr. Gerson, his daughter Charlotte Gerson, runs a medical clinic just to show you the fight between conventional medicine. She actually cures people with advanced cancer, but her clinic is in I think Ensenada, Mexico, because they don't allow you to treat cancer with nutrition. And so if you want to go and get that treatment, you actually have to go down to Mexico to get it. And just it's sad again that all options aren't open to people so that they can choose how they want to treat things.
My goodness, Emerson, that's really shocking to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, and it hasn't changed in the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, it's I have a sister who, regularly goes down to Mexico for a variety of different things. Doctors wanting to give her all sorts of pharmaceuticals, and she basically has found that she's able to supplement her diet and what she takes, and that's is that for everybody? No, but it's an option, as Rick was pointing out. It's a consideration, and it's something that unfortunately so many people aren't given that option or consideration.
As you guys are talking about that reminded me of a story that happened to me. Growing up in North Carolina, I had a lot of chronic bronchitis, and everybody knows that, what that brings to you, coughing and hacking and all that stuff. Well, in 1971, Evie and I got married. We were living in Bisbee, Arizona. That's the Mule Mountains behind us there from Bisbee. And I had gotten sick, and my father-in-law, he had a real good friend, Dr. Sergio Ribiesca, and at Agua Prieta, Sonora, Mexico. In fact, both our kids were born down there at his hospital. So I went down there to him, and he says, okay. He says, yeah, get this prescription filled. He wrote me out a special prescription and all that. And so I come back across the line to Douglas. I walked into the drugstore there because I could speak English, and that's all I could speak. I didn't want to go into a Spanish. And the druggist, he looks at that and he goes, if I was you, I wouldn't take this. This has not been approved by the FDA. I said, okay. So I took my slip of paper back. I went back across the line, walked into a little pharmacy thing, and the guy got some stuff out, and he's mixing it up in a bowl and all that. And I'm thinking, well, what is that stuff? I started taking it, and I didn't have any problem with chronic bronchitis for over 25 years after I came to Texas, and it didn't really flare up much anymore. Occasionally I get a little coughing and all that, but nothing like I did before, so it's one of those things that make you go, but always having the freedom of choice. I think that is critical. I think everyone has that right in my heart, and that's why I share that story with you.
Yeah, definitely agree. And, we got so many, what they call anecdotal evidence or anecdotal stories of people saying, I had this condition and the juice, and I did this, drink this juice, and this helped this. And, and Emerson's really aware of this, that, you can't make health claims when you advertise. The FTC will shut you down. And that's been the biggest, that's probably the biggest tool that the FDA or government or conventional medicine uses to hold
pharmaceutical
down,
industry,
hold down, natural medicine, which is sad. But people are smart. They read books and they find the solutions themselves. And it wouldn't have grown into such a big business if it didn't actually work. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because if you had stuff that did not work, that would go like wildfire amongst the people.
Oh yeah,
Don't.
absolutely.
Yeah, it really would. And I remember seeing the Juice Man commercials. I have a fondness in my heart for them because it just seemed like a wonderful product. And I never knew, ladies and gentlemen, I never had the foggiest idea that the guy behind it, the marketing and all that, the marketing guru, Mr. Rick Cesari, I would have him on my radio show. I didn't even know I'd have a radio show. But it just goes
or
to
a
show
TV
you,
show, Jim.
yeah. But it just goes to show you that the energy of the universe from the creator, he's going to guide you down paths because you are the servant. It's your responsibility to open doors and let the messages through. And that's what Rick has done throughout his career, always providing good value. And I just got to ask you, when you got involved with the Juice Man, I mean, you knew it was a great product. You had to be just thrilled about that. My goodness. And I think one of the biggest thrills it gave you was at the fact that what a blessing it was going to be for others.
Yeah, that's like I said, I think I'd said it earlier. It's the best of both worlds. You're running a successful business that you're passionate about, but you're helping a lot of people at the same time, which is really, really amazing. And I just wanted to segue a little bit into kind of how a lot of the lessons I learned, what I call health marketing, I've always incorporated it into the other products that if it made sense moving forward. And I'll give you a good example. After we sold our juicer business, I had taken some time off just to recharge batteries, enjoying life a little bit. And I got a call about a startup in Seattle called Optiva Corporation. And it turned out that they're the makers of the Sonic Care toothbrush. And Sonic was a revolutionary technology, but they were having trouble selling their product. They if you went into a store and you saw a $150 toothbrush, but you didn't know what it did compared to like a $29 toothbrush or a $3 or $4, or even $1 toothbrush that you see, so right. Sales were really sluggish. And I started working with them and basically ended up delivering kind of a health message. I learned this after talking to one of the founders. He was a periodontist, but the cause of gum disease are, bacteria that hide in the nooks and crannies of your teeth. Well, Sonic Care had something unique, Sonic technology, which is a feature, but people like, well, why, what good does Sonic technology do? Well, it turns out it creates something called cavitation with the water, and it's able to clean beyond the bristles. So if it cleans beyond the bristles, it can reach into nooks and crannies between your teeth to kill that bacteria. And so that was the marketing message. And we basically had to educate people at the time what gum disease was, what kind of problems it caused. There's a big connection between gum disease and heart disease too. And that Sonic Care was the only toothbrush at the time that could fix that problem. So it was kind of like taking a health message to help make that product work correctly. And it's something I kind of just followed suit, even with the George Foreman grill you were talking about earlier. We looked at it as a way of people eating foods that they liked, but maybe a little bit healthier. And we showed a frying pan with 2 hamburgers that were cooked the conventional way, sitting in grease, versus the shot of the George Foreman grill, cooking a hamburger and all the grease and fat is running down the front of the grill. So even though hamburgers in general aren't the healthiest thing, we were making it a little more healthy to eat. And we did that with a lot of different foods and meals and showed how it could help you eat a healthier diet just by using the grill.
Absolutely. I like that.
For our viewers who had businesses or know people who do, what he just described is one of the most difficult challenges in marketing. And that is, if you have to introduce a concept to people that's a new concept, and explain it to them in a way that they get it and that they make a decision in your favor to purchase. That's a challenge. It's a lot easier if you sell paint to be able to say, I've got paint, than to try to describe something that is a new concept for people. And in most cases, it will be a concept that will cost more. So kudos to you, Rick. I mean,
Thank you.
I've had to do that a few times. It is no fun when you're,
it's not
trying
easy.
to find that little magic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's one more story I'd like to share about the juicer, because it follows kind of in the same vein that Emerson was just talking about. So we weren't the first juicer on the market.
Right.
Juicing had been around for a while. There were two big German companies called Braun and Krups that made most of the juicers at the time. But they were German companies, and they were selling the juicer like a kitchen appliance. So they would advertise, we have a 0.5 horsepower motor, we have a stainless steel blade, we have dishwasher safe plastic, and those are all things that I call features.
Right.
Where we came out, we focused on the juicer, and we never talked about the features. We would talk about how drinking fresh juice could help lower your cholesterol, could give you more energy,
Right.
could help you live longer, healthy skin, hair, and nails. And if you drank certain juices, the vitamins in them would help all of these conditions. And so we really focused on a health message. And it was kind of an old saying I learned a long time ago. I still use it all the time. Features tell and benefits sell.
Yes.
And whenever you're marketing a product, today or anytime I'm doing it, I look at the features, but then what are the benefits to the end user? What can they take? What does that product do for the customer that you can talk about that will make them buy the product? And it's just a really powerful thing, and really learn that lesson in marketing the juicer.
I really like that, because the features tell and the benefits sell, because if you're going to use a blender to blend up some some oranges and fruits and things of this nature, do you really care what kind of a horsepower is in there, as long as it does the job? No, because you're not using it because of the horsepower. You're using it for the benefit of what you're going to get out of that thing. That's brilliant. So, I'm so glad you shared that, because there's so many people out there that want to, tell, this is what this does, this is what that does. But it doesn't matter. The benefits of what's in it for me, that's what will ring the cash register.
Yeah. Speaking of our connection through Speaking Empire, the reason I attended was, this is going back 5 years now. I was on a podcast, and there was a person listening to it named James Thompson, and James was a former Amazon employee. I think he started FBA by Amazon. And anyway, he was putting on something called the Prosper Show. And the Prosper Show at the time was the largest seminar for Amazon sellers. But Amazon sellers at the time knew nothing about brand building. If you looked at any of their listings, a lot of them would take the instruction guide and just list the features on their listing.
Still do.
Yeah, they still do. Many of them still do. You're absolutely right. So James wanted me to come in and talk about branding and what's involved and what you should be emphasizing, and unique selling propositions and things like that. So I hadn't done very much public speaking at the time. So I said, I'm going to go to Speaking Empire and polish my skills. And so I ended up doing a really good keynote address, talking about a lot of things we've been talking about today with video to back it up. And it turned out very successful. And I have Amazon sellers to this day saying, hey, you changed my business life, just because now I focus on features of the products. Plus Amazon's now allowing you to use more video and incorporating video, demonstrating the product and things like that. So that was, again, talking about how we all met. That's one of the reasons I attended the Speaking Empire.
Yeah. That's a classic example of how we all met, because you could easily see each one of us had our own reasons of being there. And because of that, little did we know going in the front door, on the back door, we would be on a TV show talking about all these wonderful things and finding health naturally. And Rick's also going to be with us on another show about business. And Emerson, I want you to use your dynamic charm and your personality to invite Rick back for some more shows, because this gentleman here has a wealth of information that I know you folks out there in TV land will enjoy.
Eric,
And
I think it'd be great if you were back on multiple shows.
Sure, absolutely. The front door is open, and just come on in, because we would love for you to share.
I love sharing. At this point in my life, I like sharing information that can help other people be successful,
Amen.
or healthy, or live healthier.
Amen. Because I know the folks out there in TV land will be very interested in having Rick on again, and we definitely will, ladies and gentlemen. Our time is gone, and this hour went by so fast, and that's why I want to bring him back some more on this show and some other shows. And most importantly, as we like to close every show, we like to say this: be sure and love yourself first, because you are worthy of being loved. Love yourself first. Then you have the capacity to love others. And most importantly, don't only just forgive them. Be sure and forgive yourself for your shortcomings and your faults. Be good to yourself and be good to others. We'll see you tomorrow. On behalf of Emerson and Rick, gentlemen, thank you so much for making this a wonderful show. I've really enjoyed, spending this time with you. I know the folks out there in TV land have too. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jim.
Thank you.